My name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Let me know about your thoughts in the comments, and let's dive into the animal news of the day. And hello, Theropod Pro Animator. So let's head back into the Mesozoic era. From News, Moros antrepidus, new deer-sized species of tyrannosaur discovered. Paleontologists have unveiled a remarkable new species of tyrannosauroid dinosaur from the Cretaceous period, a small relative of Tyrannosaurus rex. The discovery is described in the journal Communications Biology. Well, I wonder where this is occurring and also what time period. Maybe this is back in the very early Cretaceous. It could be in the late Jurassic, however. And it said deer sized. You had many deer, or, well, I mean, technically, that's a very basic term. And you had species of deer back in the Ice Age that could reach around a ton or a little over 2,000 pounds. We're pushing around 950 kilograms. But then you also have species of deer today that weigh somewhere between, I believe, 8 to 12 pounds in some instances, with certain Southeast Asian and South American species of deer, or somewhere around 4 kilograms. There are like the different species of Proceratosaurs from the Jurassic, different species of small tyrannosaurs, even much later into the Cretaceous period, like even around 90 million years ago, they were quite small. Hmm. It does look very, you could say, early Cretaceous like in certain instances, and then it carries a lot of like even late Cretaceous traits, especially around the skull. Almost looks like a young, maybe a Displetosaur to an extent. It even shares Nanotyrannosaur sort of traits. Cusanosaurus. Medium-sized primitive tyrannosaurs have been found in North America dating from the Jurassic period around 150 million years ago. North America? That might be quite far off. Europe, definitely. Asia, it's possible, but North America, they have not arrived. In fact, they don't seem to start making a major migration to North America until like the middle Cretaceous, maybe somewhere around 100 million years ago. But it's a big question as to when the first species of tyrannosaurs started making an appearance in this continent or on the North American continent. By the Cretaceous period, 81 million years ago, North American tyrannosaurs had become the enormous, iconic apex predators we know and love. No, they did not. 81 million years ago, to, when referring to deer size, you could say that for a certain species. In fact, let's bring up one of the older species from the late Cretaceous. He's popped up a few times before, but this is really a good time to show um, just his overall look and the morphology of the animal, so the body build, which is also quite similar to certain species earlier on into the early Cretaceous. But I'd even say between like 100 and 120 million years ago. Well, we'll keep going. Okay, so Suski tyrannus, Suskityra. The weird thing is that it's made out with this species, like, or even the genus itself. It was only discovered in the past, like maybe 8 years or so. However, maybe they confused it with like a Zooey tyrannus earlier on, and they just changed the name. But this animal is from New Mexico around 90 million years ago. And I could say, well, I mean, that's quite a bit off from 81 million years, or it's about a 9 million year difference, which it is true. That is quite some time for evolution to take course. But even by 81 million years ago, we don't really have any traces of different species of tyrannosaur existing in North America. They likely were occurring because you had creatures such as Suski tyrannus inhabiting at least the western United States at this point. And then later on, somewhere between 76 and 77 million years ago, you have creatures such as Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus appear. But in between, for the most part, it's a big question as to what is existing between like the nearly I'd say over 10 million years in some cases, maybe even pushing like between 11 and 12 million years. But Tyrannus is a very lightweight or nimble sort of a tyrannosaur, which is common for many species, even into the end of the Cretaceous, like literally around 67 million years ago, which you would have species such as the Nanoquinosaurus over in Alaska and the Kasianosaurus over in northern China, both at around the same time, like between 67 to 69 million years ago. And also, well, that's not Nanukosaurus. Yeah, he's somewhere around there. What I was thinking of was Nanotyrannus, which was also existing around 67 to 68 million years ago, coexisting with T Rex itself. But larger frames, I'd say over in Asia, you already had larger species of Tyrannosaur occurring over 122 million years ago. So that was during like the nearly first 21 million years of the Cretaceous. But at this point, in over in North America, they're very lightly built. You do see a lot of distinct characteristics that you don't see in many earlier species. I need to see if this actually exists.
This is kind of blurry.
Well, it's from the 2001 documentary When Dinosaurs Roamed America by Discovery. And I thought they were really good models. The question is, what type of a basal or mysterious Salorosaur is this? Because they just stuck it into the ecosystem. I'm not sure if these models or these two specific animals were based off of some fragmentary fossil material that came from certain late Cretaceous fossil basins in New Mexico. They were depicted as just like fighting over fish. They seem to have the overall physiology to probably take on at least smaller species of dinosaurs. But the animals that it's coexisting with are certain earlier species of hadrosauromorphs, like in the background. It's not hitting me what specific species that could be, but this is the ancestor to different species of hadrosauridae. You have some of the earliest species of North American ceratopsians existing at this point. This is also before different species of ceratopsids would evolve later on, like ceratopsidae, which would occur around 82 million years ago. This is Zuniceratops, which is larger than the Tyrannus. Tyrannus was probably just slightly taller. But Zuniceratops was probably reaching somewhere between 13 to 15 feet in length. They're pushing between 4 to 4.6 meters and probably weighed a little over maybe 800, somewhere between 800 to 1100 pounds, or pushing between like 390 to 500 kilograms. And it was a basic herbivore. So it's feeding on earlier species of flowers, different species of shrubs or ferns in the region. Might have occasionally knocked down smaller trees. But the Suski tyrannus was a carnivore, so it's likely feeding on smaller Zuniceratops individuals. It's a huge mystery as to whether or not this tyrannosaur would have hunted in packs, considering the only remains of it that we have discovered are of juveniles pushing somewhere around 4 feet in length, 3.5 to 4 feet, maybe somewhere around 1.2, 1.3 meters. And they do seem to be juveniles, showing a rapid, steady growth structure in their bones, or at least looking at the growth rings or the growth plates. Also, what's very distinct about Suski tyrannus, if you look closely at the arms, is that it has 3 fingers. This trait would pretty much disappear within the Tyrannosaur lineage later on into the Cretaceous, except for rare individuals like a T Rex specimen called Y Rex, which has a slight third finger. But outside of that, including T Rex, the later Tyrannosaurs would only have 2 fingers.
Maybe he was just deformed.
Um, yeah, I would say that Y-Rex is very well built for a T-Rex in general, but for some reason, he ended up just evolving that slight third finger. Now, could it have been used for much? Probably not, considering it would be hard enough for T-Rex to really have much of a use of the arms in general, but it is theorized that the arms might have been used for communication, or like a T-Rex tickling another, but I think it would be a bit of a challenge with how little they're able to move their arms, despite how strong they are. It's more so with even this creature in Suski tyrannus, their arms at this point were probably used to help bring down certain smaller prey items, probably only putting so much pressure on their arms. So the fossil record between these time periods has been a blank state, preventing paleontologists from piecing together the story behind the ascent of tyrannosaurs in North America. When and how quickly tyrannosaurs went from wallflower to prom king has been vexing paleontologists for a long time. Okay. Um, not sure what it means by I haven't heard of that term before. Wallflower. Um, I guess how you could say just from being the subordinate inferior species, like especially during the late Jurassic, even throughout much of the all the early Cretaceous period.
That's a weird way to state something.
And then, yeah, becoming the superior predators, they still had competitors here and there, but there weren't really any contenders. You could say maybe Dakota Raptor during the end of the Cretaceous, but that would pretty much be it when looking at the theropods. Like, you might have had yeah, even Tarbosaurus. What you had Velociraptor. That's pretty much it. Actually, okay, maybe creatures like Albertosaurus actually might have had the biggest contemporary, but it wasn't a dinosaur. It was just a large crocodilomorph, the Deinosuchus. Said Dr. Lindsay Zano, a paleontologist at North Carolina State University and head of paleontology at the North Carolina Museum of Sciences. The only way to attack this problem was to get out there and find more data on these rare animals. The newly discovered tyrannosaur named Moros antrepidus lived about 96 million years ago in the lush deltaic environment of what is now Utah. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. Considering we do have close to the same time, certain species of hadrosauromorphs occurring over in Utah. Utah was actually a haven for a wide variety of different species of iguanodontids, even raptors or dromaeosaurs. We have found many species, at least compared to other states, of nodosaurs in Utah. And obviously, as you head back into the Jurassic, it's a haven for different species of carnosaurs or like allosaurs and sauropods. But focusing on the Cretaceous, I'd say ceratopsians, no, they still pop up over in Utah, like Utah ceratops. So it's the oldest Cretaceous tyrannosaur species yet discovered in North America, narrowing a 70 million year gap in the fossil record of tyrannosauroid dinosaurs on the continent. 70 million year gap. I'm not sure what it's referring to here or what it's even trying to state necessarily. Because so far it seems to be like around 90 million years ago when the first tyrannosaurs, at least that we know of, showed up in North America. Maybe more recently, we have found evidence of fragmented specimens slightly earlier into the Cretaceous, but it's the earliest so far. Um, okay, so let's bring up a species of hadrosauromorph, the Acrostavus. Acrisstavus. Okay, well, it's odd that it's depicting a small, like, I think I would refer to this as maybe a late 2010s representation of a T Rex. But T Rex, wait a second. I think he has a third finger. Or it's supposed to be the nub like Y Rex. The other one seems to just have two fingers. Also, somewhat large arms, I think, even for T Rex, despite them being extremely muscular. But, yeah, T Rex, in fact, like even Albertosaurus hasn't evolved yet over in possibly Alberta, Canada, where this creature was discovered. So Acrostavis is a member of the Hadrosauridae lineage of dinosaurs. So it's one of the first to evolve, but this is around 79 million years ago. And it was before many species of later hadrosaurs, such as like the different types of Lambeosaurus, Corythosaurus that would eventually evolve. Even species like Parasaurolophus or Saurolophus over in Alberta and as well Mongolia. So it's one of the earlier advanced species of hadrosaurs. I'd say that the hands on that model are very far off. The um, I'd say the three fingers that would create that hoof would be stuck together, so they wouldn't be dexterous like in that instance. This is not a bad representation of Acrostavis. It's really giving that longer, narrow sort of hadrosaur build along the skull. The eye socket seems to be placed right. Even the earlobe as well. Well, that would be referring to the part of the brain for hearing, just specifically where the ear hole would be. The nostrils, they're interesting. I actually haven't seen a hadrosaur nostril depicted in that type of a way. It's certainly possible it can have this type of a look. But the beak does seem very good. Um, it has it where it's pointed towards the ground. That's a very hadrosaur trait. There were earlier species that were a bit more diagonal or forward facing, especially earlier into the ornithopod lineage in general. And osteoderms along the neck, they look good. Also, the wrinkles along the neck structure of these different hadrosaurs, they're, not signs of them becoming older. In some cases, they might have occurred to help release heat. This is not Acrostavis. This is a shorter crested species of Parasaurolophus, and it still has not evolved yet. This would probably not be until somewhere between 73 to 74 million years ago. This could be Acrostaphus, but there's something about that upper crest area that possibly links to another species of hadrosaur. Now, looking at his forefeet, and this is also, I'm guessing, a life-size model. They're definitely closer to what the hoof would look like for different species of hadrosaurs. Even in earlier iguanodontids in general, the feet seem okay. I think they might be a little like wide towards the ankles. Um, just something slightly off. Also, he does look a little bit skinny towards the neck. Certain species of Hadrosauridae, especially when you're looking at the Lambeosaurans, which I don't believe Acrostavis was a part of, I think he was a predecessor to them, would have thinner sort of neck structures. But though that might have just occurred on the females or maybe even on males at a certain part of the year.
Somebody making
Uh,
a horror book?
what is this? Is that like a vertebrae of some other animal? Not sure what we're supposed to be looking at. Like, there's the Acrostavis, which looks like the other model. But I wonder if it's the same artist. And I have no idea what this is supposed to be. Unless that's his tail. Yeah, we can't scroll any further down.
No.
That's odd. That's a good looking representation of the skull of Acrostavis. It's almost like Griposaurus to an extent, or even maybe Probactrosaurus, but Probactrosaurus might be a bit different. And I might be referring to an elasmerian too, not a hadrosaur.
Pro Animator said the other one was creepy.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on there. But yeah, also hadrosaurs in general would not have been able to see at least extraordinarily well towards the front of their skull, or at least having very good binocular vision. It would be a very small overlap for that area of vision. So they had much better peripheral vision, and it likely was pretty decent. I think in many cases, when it comes to herbivores, they tend to be viewed as or described like rhinos or even sheep to an extent, but even rhinos have fairly decent vision, at least from a short distance. And I'm not referring to like 6.6 feet or 2 meters. I'm referring to maybe over 30 to 40 feet in some instances, or 9 to 12 meters. And that's why there will be certain instances where rhinos will continue to chase safari vehicles. Um, but it likely was very similar with the different species of hadrosaurs. They also had larger eye sockets compared to wide variety of mammals that have existed. I'd say, well, maybe when compared to their body size, it could be similar to certain species of smaller mammals, but at least compared to large ones, they were much larger. Their sense of smell was likely very decent, as well as hearing. So it was a bit of a mix. Oh, also very efficient chewer, especially being one of the first hadrosaurs. I mean, hundreds of teeth inside of its mouth. So with a lethal combination of bone crunching bite forces, stereoscopic vision, rapid growth rates, and colossal size, tyrant dinosaurs reigned uncontested for 15 million years leading up to the end Cretaceous extinction, but it wasn't always that way. Yeah, that's quite a long time. That would be from like 66 to 81 million years ago. And throughout at least a few million years of that time, we don't have really any evidence or really any major remains of tyrannosaurs, at least between s- um what 77.5 and 81 million years ago. And even further back, obviously, like to about 88 million years ago at least. It's likely Suzuki Tyrannus was roaming New Mexico 89 million years ago. The question is who came afterwards. Early in their evolution, tyrannosaurs hunted in the shadows of archaic lineages such as allosaurs that were already established at the top of the food chain. That is true to an extent. I mean, you likely had it in certain instances where there were species such as the different types of carcharodontosaurs, that certain smaller tyrannosaurs occasionally might have fed on smaller species of dinosaurs, but they were just lower in the food chain, but coexisted with them. And different species of megalosaurs in many cases, and even certain types of ceratosaurians like the abelisaurs, and even possibly megaraptorids in some cases, but that would likely have been quite a rare occurrence. With a 3.9 foot or 1.2-meter length and 78-kilogram mass. Hold on a second. Okay, the 78 kilograms, just real quick, I'm guessing that's going to be somewhere around like probably 170 pounds. That's literally almost identical to the size of the Suski tyrannus specimens that we have found over in New Mexico. I mean, it's certainly possible. You have it where tyrannosaurs like Daspletosaurus over one of the Daspletosaur species in Montana, or is it Montana or Alberta? It's possibly Alberta. And then Tarbosaurus batar over Mongolia are close to the same size. The Tarbosaurus is slightly larger, but this is very close. Though I'd say the weight estimate of Suzuki Tyrannus was less. Length's nearly identical. So, Moros intrepidus ranks among the smallest Cretaceous tyrannosauroids. I will say though, this is like the oddest name to give a tyrannosaur. Usually, it's something that um, is, I think, a bit quicker to catch on when it comes to different tyrannosaur names. I mean, you have certain ones that are a bit distinct, like Wanlong and Delong. Trying to think of who else. Just, I mean, you could say for some that Suzuki Tyrannus is not necessarily maybe a normal name for a Tyrannosaur, but it has Tyrannus in it. So it automatically hints that it's likely a member of the Tyrannosaur lineage. But you have creatures like Tyrannotitan. They're not members of the Tyrannosaur family, or it isn't. It's not a member of the Coelurosaur lineage. It is actually a member of Allosauridae, and more specifically, a species of Carcharodontosaur. And that confused me for years. I'm like, who is this creature? And like, why would you name him something that links or makes it sound like it's a Tyrannosaur, but it's not? I mean, it's fine, but it did make it quite confusing. Yeah, I just think that's odd. I mean, it's okay. I think it's a mixture of Greek and Latin. Dr. Zano and colleagues estimate that the individual was over 7 years old when it died and that it was nearly full grown. In fact, whoa, wait a second. It was? Well, it's not necessarily a lightweight deer. I mean, that's pushing, um, not necessarily, I guess, like a smaller whitetail buck to an extent, a whitetail deer. It's like bigger than any large roe deer. They might get to like 120 or 130 pounds in some instances, or a little over 60 kilograms. You know what? Let's bring up the Carcharodontosaur, Tyrannotitan. Tyrannotitan. Oh no! See, even I guess it got confused too. It looks nothing like a species of Tyrannosaur, and it's also not closely related. This looks like some almost Tarbosaur individual. Now, the problem is it does not have lips. Nostrils are very Tyrannosaur like, and in many cases, theropod nostrils would be different compared to many species of herbivores or herbivorous species of dinosaurs. Like, even when you look at different species of sauropods, different species of stegosaurs, ornithopods like the iguanodontids, they tend to have slightly more of a circular type of a nostril shape. And that is important to note. It might have to do with some difference in smell, which in many cases the theropods would have had much more superior senses of smell, especially different species of tyrannosaurs. But it was also likely with carcharodontosaurs. But yeah, it's definitely not one. No, it's still too tyrannosaur like. If anything, the arms are closer to a carcharodontosaur. And why is he hunting fish? You have no evidence for any species of carcharodontosaur. Um, Allosaurs, really in general, feeding on fish or being piscivores. They're mostly feeding on larger terrestrial species of animals. This is much more like a species of Carcharodontosaur, and this is likely a Tyrannotitan. However, I would say they're giving him very long claws. I mean, the Carcharodontosaurs did have um, decent length claws for their lineage. I think those are sauropods in the distance further down the mountain.
John Doe is in the chat.
Oh, welcome back, Theropod. I would say they're giving him quite tall legs, but it could differ depending on the species. I think Tyrannotitan might be one of the taller species of Carcharodontosaurs, but it's not necessarily the heaviest. I believe Giganotosaurus and Mapusaurus were slightly heavier. Acrocanthosaurus might have approached the size of Tyrannotitan. Is this an earlier model of him? I mean, it could be. He seems a bit thinner or almost gracile in this depiction. Very small arms. I mean, like T Rex size. In some cases, it might be even shorter. It did still have arms that were similar in size to Acrocanthosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, other Carcharodontosaurs. But that is interesting. I say his head looks okay. And they're even adding those distinct osteoderms towards the back of the neck that were added to a wide variety of different depictions of different species of carcharodontosaurs, or like this depiction across the body. I wonder where they got that from because this is also shown in different species of Allosauroideae, even Allosaurus itself to an extent. It's much less so in more recent reconstructions, but it will still occur now and then. I'm trying to think of who else. The megalosaurs a little less so, but in many cases with megalosaurus from 170 million year old England, there are many reconstructions where there are elongated osteoderms along the back of the neck. In earlier reconstructions of different species of theropod dinosaurs, these were non existent, but also it's just a lot of basal scales. This is not a bad depiction on the carnivore feeding on a species of titanosaur. He likely, though, would not probably have tried to bite the neck into several pieces because they were probably. It's not necessarily that they couldn't come into contact with bone, but they were probably just focusing on softer pieces of the body. Oh, yeah, this creature is also probably pushing somewhere between 36 to 40 feet in length, or around 11 to 12.2 meters, and probably weighed in at around 7 to 8 tons. So it was one of the larger species of carcharodontosaurs, but it was still a little further down the list, both the length and weight end.
Okay, John Doe just kind of jumped into current time. He said, I just found out that Namibia lions are the only aquatic lions because their prey is limited to adapted to hunting fish seals and bringing in dead whales.
I had known and even seen a bit of footage of certain lion prides in Namibia going after seals, but whale carcasses and possibly even fish. That's a new one. I wouldn't necessarily call them the only semi-aquatic lions because you have it where, at least during the wet season, lions over in the Okavango Delta of neighboring northern Botswana will actually use the deep water somewhat to their advantage. I think to help wear down their prey, like going after different species of semi-aquatic antelope, like the leshwe, or different Cape buffalo herds in some cases, like even going after elephant calves. But that is interesting because I don't really recall lions in Botswana or the Okavango going after catfish, which is pretty numerous in the region. Leopards will, however, they're quite active fish hunters over in that region, almost like jaguars to an extent. But jaguars tend to focus on like more caimans. Occasionally, you can have it where lions, not so much leopards, but will go after smaller crocodiles. But that is interesting. That's quite fascinating. Wow, feeding lions feeding on whales. That's an interesting one. I mean, fish too, but
Well, they'll get filled up.
well, I think yeah, I mean, it'll vary depending on the whale and how much like blubber it has. But yeah, that's very strange, and it's, I mean, a quick, good, adaptable trait considering it's very limited in food, depending on where the lions are existing. But I'm guessing there's probably connections to different prides further inland, like as you head towards Etosha National Park. That's also like a single area in northern Namibia. I need to recheck like where the lion prides are specifically, if we even have an estimate of all the lion prides.
And they don't have to worry about seasoning their food. It's already salted.
Yeah, that's actually important to take into account. They're already getting in sodium from these different food sources. Then they might have a little more trouble with further inland. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, I can't think of. Well, actually, speaking of dinosaurs, or well, speaking of cats, big cats today, feeding on whale carcasses probably even occurred with earlier species, like back in the Ice Age, like American lions and the cave lions. You probably had many instances. In fact, it's actually been depicted in many occurrences with mid Jurassic species of megalosaurs over in different parts of coastal Europe. Because back then you had it where, well, much of the Mesozoic in general, or the time of the dinosaurs, Europe was a series of islands. Might have been a little less so during the Triassic, but definitely by the Jurassic period. So after 201 million years ago, um, Europe started becoming very fragmented, especially as you head to like around 170 to 180 million years ago. It really is a series of large islands, despite hosting medium-sized species of sauropods in different instances. Oh, but you would have had megalosaurs scavenging, not necessarily whales, but different species of large pliosaurs that might have been beached, different species of plesiosaurs, and might have occasionally even hunted fish. Even though that seems to be pushed towards species of spinosaurs, which technically were megalosaurs, but a little later on to the Cretaceous, and certain species of unilangine theropods, or the osteoraptors. But focusing on this odd tyrannosaur, Moros intrapitus was lightweight and exceptionally fast. Well, yeah, it does seem to have very nimble sort of a build. These adaptations, together with advanced sensory capabilities, are the mark of a formidable predator. It could easily have run down prey while avoiding confrontation with the top predators of the day. Well, the question is, who's it even competing with? I mean, what was this? I forgot. Was this 70 million years ago? Uh,
What was the 150?
yeah, here it is. No.
Oh,
Well,
no, no, you're talking here.
yeah, but that just mentions, which we don't have any evidence of, tyrannosaurs being in North America 150 million years ago. They were over in China. Well, a little later into the Cretaceous, like between 135 and 143 million years ago, with like Huanglong, Dilong, not North America, and then over in Europe. And even 81 million years ago, we don't know what tyrannosaur was existing in North America at that point. Just Suski tyrannus 90 million years ago. Okay, so the bones of the new Tyrannosaur also revealed the origin of T Rex's lineage on the North American continent. Let's make sure this is a very careful analyzation because this is still majorly up for debate. There is also something more recently uh, trying to state that we were narrowing down T Rex's direct ancestors in earlier Maastrichtian North America, or a couple million years earlier in the Cretaceous, but still nothing really confirmed any species of Tyrannosaur predecessor. When the scientists placed Moros intrapitus within the family tree of Tyrannosaurs, they discovered that its close relatives were from Asia. T Rex and its famous contemporaries, such as Triceratops, may be among our most beloved cultural icons, but we owe their existence to their intrepid ancestors who migrated here from Asia at least 30 million years prior. We really don't know whether or not the ancestors to T Rex specifically arrived in North America, like it's saying 90 million years ago, because T Rex seems to have evolved around 68 million years ago. Um, Yeah, it's really a big question, but technically, you have their earliest ancestors. If you're talking just the Tyrannosaur lineage, probably occurring somewhere between 160 and 163 million years ago. And then even further back with like the theropod lineage in general, over 230 million years ago. But also Triceratops. If you're talking about ornithopods and ornithischians, which is the large lineage of dinosaurs that Triceratops belongs to, that was around 201 million years ago with the first inhabitants. Also, probably over in Asia too. But they were also early on in North America. Moros intrepidus signals the establishment of the iconic late Cretaceous ecosystems of North America. Well, okay, it's a bit of a mystery, I'd say, when also this even occurred. Like, we don't know, like, when or what time frame Moros is found. So I'm going to have to do a little more research into this specific mysterious species because we have no idea if he was coexisting with different types of ceratopsians. Were there hadrosauromorphs in the region? Even basal hadrosaurs, but that would be later into the Cretaceous. Different types of ankylosaurs. This is a huge question. I'm very confused. But let's head over to another part of the Mesozoic. So and let me even know your thoughts on that odd Tyrannosaur too. Fossil clue found to ancient clash between shark and Pteranodon. Let's see what's going on here. In a paper in the journal Peer J, paleontologists report finding a shark tooth embedded and an 80 million year old cervical vertebra of the large flying reptile called Pteranodon. Whoa. Wow. Well, this is quite shocking. I don't think that Pteranodon's likely soaring after that. But there are theories as to Pteranodon possibly diving for its food. It does seem to be with many species of smaller to medium-sized species of pterosaur, especially members of the Pteranodonted lineage, that they likely would have dived for their food. The life reconstruction of an 8.2 foot or 2.5-meter long breaching Cretoxyrhina mantelli. This is one of the species of late Cretaceous sharks that lived adjacent to North America during this time, possibly even inhabiting the western interior sea that cut North America in half at this point. So it would have been sharing the salt waters with different species of mosasaurs, different species of long necked plesiosaurs. At this point, the dolphin like ichthyosaurs had already gone extinct for at least about 10 million years. Okay, biting the neck of a 16.4 foot or 5-meter wingspan Pteranodon longiceps. Pteranodon longiceps, which is the pterosaur that people tend to mistake for pterodactylus or pterodactyl, which lived much earlier in time, back in the late Jurassic, around 150 million years ago, also in Germany. It did not inhabit North America. It also did not contain a crest, and it had several conical teeth inside of its mouth. So also likely feeding on different species of fish. But Pteranodon also didn't have or feed on different, it didn't contain any teeth, but it looks like it fed on different species of fish. So the predatory behavior of this scene is speculative with respect to the data offered by the 80 million year old specimen, but reflects the fact that Cretoxyrhina is generally considered a predatory species. The vast weight advantage of the shark against the pterosaur, and the juvenile impulse of the artist to draw an explosive predatory scene. Um, juvenile impulse? That's weird. Oh, guess it was by Mark Whiten. But Cretoxyrhina was, I guess you could say, an average size species of shark. It is a hybodontomorph. So this belonged to a large group of sharks. In fact, let's just bring up Cretoxyrhina. So Cretoxyrhina.
That's interesting. This picture came up.
Well, that's interesting. It might be chasing like an older relative of Archelon in this instance. That there might have been species of Archelon existing further back. Archelon was the largest species of marine turtle that we have discovered from the Mesozoic. And it's also a close relative of today's modern turtles as well. However, its shell was widely different. There were many large holes within at least the top of the shell, but I think even the bottom part. So it would have been quite hollow. This creature still probably weighed somewhere around 1 to 2 tons. And trying to think of the length. Mm, Maybe pushing somewhere between 12 to 15 feet. Maybe if you're including like a fin in front of it. Or maybe pushing around 4.5 meters. Also, was probably feeding on different species of squid, maybe even going after ammonites in the ocean.
Wait,
But
I have what's left of one.
yeah, I was wondering if this was going to pop up. Oh, wait a second. That's not a turtle. That's a shark itself. Okay. Yeah, this would probably have occurred quite a bit with like different species of earlier Tylosaurus mosasaurs, other members of the mosasaur lineage in general. We have found over somewhere between 60 to 70 different species of mosasaur. So all linking within around the last 30 million years of well, not 30, maybe 25 million years of the Cretaceous. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty realistic. They would have loved chum now and then. Unless, I mean, I would think you could refer to chopped up shark as chum. Oh, yes, this is one of the older representations of possibly Cretoxyrhina itself going after smaller mosasaurs, which is very likely. And then Pteranodons in this instance are not having to be as concerned. But Cretoxyrhina is about the size of likely a great white shark, but maybe a little shorter in length. So probably pushing around 18 feet or maybe a little over like 5.2 meters. Still probably weighed in at a similar size to like the largest great whites, like off the coast of Hawaii or even certain parts of California. We even have certain large individuals off the coast of South Africa and occasionally heading over to like New England, but pushing around 2,000 to 2,200 pounds or a little over 1,000 kilograms. Yeah, also when referring to the different species of marine reptiles, they did have to eventually go to the surface to obtain some air, maybe every 15 to 20 minutes. Wow. Well, this one's quite athletic, but that plesiosaur, by the looks of it, seems to be a bit of an older representation, but it's still not bad. I'd say it's probably some species of elasmosaurid, but this was around 78 to 80 million years ago in the Western Interior Sea. Rhino actually might have had an even longer time realm, at least with different species of its genus, if we have found any others. But the Hybidontomorphs, which was the large lineage of cartilaginous fish that we have found, um, oh, I kind of lost myself there. Basically, the Hybidontomorphs first evolved during the Devonian period. So I think it was pushing somewhere around 390 million years ago and would mysteriously go extinct despite sharks persisting after that. All right, they would go extinct around 66 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous, along with the different species of marine reptiles and the dinosaurs. Pterosaurs too. So, yeah, it is a huge question. Like they survived the Devonian, the Carboniferous, the Permian period, and the whole Mesozoic, and for some reason, plop, just completely disappeared from the fossil record. You would still have other lineages that would evolve into much larger sharks, even though we do have evidence for different species of sharks back in, I believe, the early Cretaceous period somewhere between 110 and 130 million years ago, reaching like the size of supposedly Jaws, which isn't he supposed to be like 30 feet?
25.
Oh, okay, they were bigger. Pushing around 9 meters and probably weighing somewhere between uh 2.5 to 4 tons. And so at this point, they're just like the size of a large great white shark, which they can still feed on a wide range of different species of animals. But it wasn't just the Western Interior Sea. There were in many of the oceans of the Earth. So you could, I think we have found maybe in certain Pacific deposits and other Atlantic deposits of well, fossils of Cretoxyrhina.
You said Pacific Atlantic.
Okay, Pacific Ocean marine deposits, and then linking to Atlantic
Okay.
marine deposits. Yeah, so we can get rid of these. Yeah, it probably would have looked quite different from modern day great whites because they're very distantly related. So, in the late Cretaceous epoch, North America was divided by a giant waterway called the Western Interior Sea. It was biologically prolific region from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada. Some of the world's best fossils from this time are found here, including the Smoky Hill Chalk region of Kansas, where the newly described fossil was found. I think there have also been a wide variety of different species of mosasaurs that have been found here. Other marine reptiles in general. Kansas is a hotspot for Cretaceous marine creatures. The specimen was excavated in the 1960s and kept in the Los Angeles County Natural History Museum before University of Southern California's Dr. Michael Habib and colleagues plucked it from a display for further study.
Pro animator said, "Rest in peace, Fred the pterosaur or pterodactyl."
Oh, yeah, for certain. I mean, still a great snapshot, however. The The scientists were intrigued by the embedded shark tooth because of more than 1,100 specimens of Pteranodon. I forget how common Pteranodon or how abundant he is in these different deposits. Guess you could say coastal
1,100 species, though.
specimens.
Oh,
A-
specimens.
And probably many of them are fragmentary. It's kind of like when we're talking about saber-toothed cat fossils from different regions of the United States or maybe even Eurasia, depending on the species we're referring to, but really focusing on Spelodon fatalis from North America. Not all of them are complete specimens. So it's same thing for Pteranodon, but I could just stick on certain other species of dinosaurs, and it's a similar instance. Allosaurus is probably a good comparison. A large pterodactyloid pterosaur from the late Cretaceous of North America. Only 7 or even less than 1% show evidence of predator prey interaction. I'm guessing where they have injuries on their bones. Now let's see what's going on here. So it's his cervical vertebrae along his neck. Oh, is that a bite mark right there? But it seems infected somewhat.
That looks like a bite mark. Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah, there's a chipped off area, and even here too. So I'm wondering maybe it's just due to minerals coming in contact with the bones, or maybe the other paleontologists added like certain colorations.
So he didn't finish eating him.
No, that's why I'm kind of surprised. Like, did he just
Break a tooth and go, "Ow."
yeah, but pteranodontids, pterosaurs in general didn't have I mean, they could withstand some force, but from a large or this large of a shark, I would think they wouldn't survive this. Yeah, what exactly happened? Hmm. Pteranodons were masters of the sky. These gigantic flying reptiles abounded when dinosaurs walked the earth. It was for a short amount of time. Now, pteranodontids much longer. They were around throughout the whole Cretaceous, so evolving around 143 million years ago. They ported a conspicuous crested skull, had a wingspan of 18 feet or 5.5 meters. They could be a bit longer, probably between 20 to 25 feet, or pushing between like 6 to almost 8 meters, and weighed about 100 pounds or 45 kilograms. Oh, they were larger than that. You could probably have Pteranodon longiceps weigh between like 150 to 200 pounds, or pushing between maybe like around 60 to 90 kilograms.
Wait, what's the big giant one in HMNS?
I think it's a Quetzalcoatlus northropi. So that creature was probably somewhere around 40 feet when it came to, well, it's been narrowed down slightly, maybe about 36 feet. We're pushing 11 meters, but still weighing over 450 pounds or pushing over 200 kilograms. But Cretaceous oceans were, oh, wait. So they could travel long distances, land, and take off in water and had a fancy for fish. There's still a lot of, bit of a debate when it comes to Pteranodon, how far it could travel. But Cretaceous oceans were a dangerous place to linger. Under the waves lurked big, flesh-eating reptiles and sharks. I have to say, the the writing is a bit funny in these. But which sea monster killed it? How did it happen? And why was the neck bone intact? First, the paleontologists had to rule out that the shark tooth, about 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters long, wasn't randomly stuck to the pteranodon vertebra.
Randomly stuck?
Yeah,
How
it's
do you
funny.
how does he get randomly
I mean, there are different instances where we have found evidence of shark teeth, or I think in some cases, maybe in smaller pliosaur teeth embedded into like different species of long necked pliosaurs, not pliosaurs, plesiosaurs. Not so much ichthyosaurs. Certainly is possible because they were hunted by those creatures as well. Same thing for different species of dinosaurs, like I think even certain types of sauropods or hadrosaurs or ornithopods in general with teeth from theropods locked into their bones. This is definitely rare though with this pterosaur and shark incident. Perhaps had both been deposited in a prehistoric boneyard at the same time. They found that the tooth was stuck between ridges in the neck vertebrae, which was clear evidence of a bite. Okay, I think we need to bring up like some species of dinosaur. So I guess we could bring up like a large herbivore that maybe lived a little later in time. At least for North America, there isn't necessarily, I mean, there are dinosaurs that pop up, but not a lot around 80 million years ago. At least the earlier times of Pteranodon longiceps. Okay, I guess we can bring up Xenoceratops. So Xenocerate. Yeah, it's actually a pretty good representation of him. So he is a member of the Centrosaur lineage of ceratopsians. So this is a very distant relative to different species of Triceratops, the Torosaurus later on to the Cretaceous, even the Chasmosaurs themselves, or the Chasmosaur lineage of ceratopsids. So this belonged to a group also of ceratopsians that first evolved around 82 million years ago. But Xenoceratops is from Alberta, Canada, around 75 to 76 million years ago, and was an herbivore. So it's also feeding on different species of cycads, going after different species of ferns, possibly even feeding on leaves of fallen down trees. But
I have a
it's
depressed one.
he kind of looks like a rhino, or is giving that impression of a white rhino that went over to a mud wallow.
He looks depressed.
Yeah, I guess slightly, or yeah, it's just supposed to represent the dry season, or it's one of those just hot summers over in Alberta or late Cretaceous Alberta at this point. They still would have experienced snow now and then, or at least during the winter. That's an odd representation. I mean, it's fine. His legs might be a little tall, but it's really not a bad depiction. His horns, I think, could be slightly larger. Xenoceratops is one of those odd centrosaurs. It has sideways facing horn structures, almost like the somewhat brand new Loki Ceratops species of um, Centrosaur, but he could be a Chasmosaur. I might need to check up on Loki Ceratops. But there are other species of Centrosaurs that have those side facing horns, and they don't really have much of a horn like structure on their nasal region, or at least towards the front of their snout. It's a bit more of like a lifted dome, kind of like with what you see in Ankylosaurus, possibly our Rhinoceratops, not Pseudoceratops too. But and I guess you could say like a very thin version of Pachyrhinosaurus. But this creature is a medium-sized species of ceratopsian, probably reaching somewhere around 15 to 16 feet in length, or maybe pushing a little over 4.8 meters, and probably weighed around a ton.
Pro Animator said rhino feeling down.
Yeah, it's definitely what it looks like. It's a good representation. He has a very lifted horn, though, on this model. That's interesting. The horns, though, I think are a bit closer to realism. And even when it comes to the horns around the frill, I think they look pretty decent. Um, I'd say not the Chasmosaurs, the Centrosaurs in general put a lot more emphasis into different types of display structures, at least with their horns along their frills. So for some reason, like their bodies were much more creative when it came to that sort of an arrangement than compared to the chasmosaurs. Chasmosaurs were like, okay, just make sure you have a very large frill compared to your body size and just put on little horns here and there. Okay, you're done. We gave you larger front facing horns, but we're going to put more creativity into the centrosaurs. I still think the chasmosaurs look good, in some instances even better than most centrosaurs, but that's just kind of how I see it with the horn decoration on their frills. It was just like almost a copy and paste in some instances, and like, yeah, we changed a little bit on the frills, just how they're arranged, but um, I mean, they still look good. Is this somebody's model? I can't tell. Hmm. I'd say the horns might be a little too close together. They do have that distinct side horns, kind of like with what you see in most species of ceratopsians, towards like the mid center of their face. They're very distinct, two somewhat sideways pointing top horns. I still think there might have been a bit more to the creature, but there are also been instances where small osteoderms have been added to the center of the body, kind of like with different species of sauropods, or even like with what we see with different species of allosaurs for ceratopsians. I think it's a little less so with more modern reconstructions. Tend to be just adding maybe those porcupine quill like feathers. And um Oh, yeah, well, I mean, they did add different patterns. I might have to double check though, or I will with the chasmosaurs because I think we still have other chasmosaurs where they did put more emphasis into their top horn assemblage. Okay, I guess we could head back to the article. So this was shortly after Pteranodon longiceps. So the tooth belonged to a large mackerel shark called Cretoxyrhina mantelli. This particular predator was large, fast, and powerful, about 8 feet or 2.4 meters long. That's odd. Am I mixing Cretoxyrhina up with maybe another species? Because um, this animal likely did not weigh a ton. I mean, maybe pushing around 800 pounds or a little over 380 kilograms, but that's a little short for that weight. And roughly comparable in appearance and behavior to today's great white shark, though it's not closely related. Yeah, it's a huge guess.
John Doe said a few years ago they discovered a new ceratopsian dinosaur nicknamed Hellboy. I just forgot the official name, and I'm kind of bad with years.
I don't think I've heard of that. That's interesting. Hellboy ceratopsian. Are you seeing if it popped in? The second, the team wondered why the evidence of attack was preserved at all. Typically, heavy shark bites utterly shattered pterosaur bones, leaving little trace. In this instance, what?
I, I- I'm trying to pronounce this word.
Is there a picture of the creature?
Mm, hold on, let me do
Or is it mysterious?
No, it's not that. It's oh, hold on.
So leaving little trace. In this instance, the tooth just happened to get stuck on a particularly bony part of the neck, which led to the fortuitous fossil.
Rigoloceratops. Yeah.
Regaloceratops? Oh, huh. I'd heard of the term Hellboy, or I guess the comic, being used for some species of dinosaur, but I didn't know exactly who it was. So I guess it's him. Interesting.
I'll pull.
So, such a fossil discovery is so rare that this is the first documented occurrence of the shark species interacting with pterosaurs. Oh, him. Oh, that was yeah, that was a little way back. So interesting. I guess it makes sense because of the um, reddish complexion they gave him in the original illustration. I think this is the species where there was an immense skull, like a very broad sort of structure, even for ceratopsians of its time that was discovered. It might have been also over in Alberta too. So this was pushing like 77 million years ago. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, it's an immense skull for the time. Yeah, very small front horns compared to his body size, except the nasal horn. It's actually quite long for at least compared to the eye socket horns. Quite odd, but a very distinct sort of representation when it comes to just the orientation of or the complexion of the horns. I'm wondering what that is towards the bottom. Hmm.
What are you looking at?
Like that little cast or whatever it is. I don't think it's supposed to be like a juvenile.
Looks like it has horns on it.
Yeah, maybe it's supposed to be a cast of this. Because with a juvenile, they would be much shorter, despite them already being short on here. This creature was similar in size to Xenoceratops. I think Xenoceratops was found slightly beforehand, but who? Okay, so Galaceratops probably reaching around 20 to 22 feet in length. They're pushing 6 to 6.8 meters and probably weighed somewhere between 2 to 2.5 tons and was also an herbivore feeding on different species of ferns, flowers at this point, possibly coexisted with Xenoceratops. I'd say the centrosaurs. No, I mean there were certain styracosaurs. I was thinking of the single nasal horn, but there are both lineages did contain that sort of attribute or that specific type of characteristic. I would say that many of the frills of these earlier species of ceratopsians were a bit, or they weren't as wide or robust as later species such as Triceratops. But you also had it where the predators that they were having to defend themselves from did not have the bite force of, per se, T Rex. So they didn't need as robust of a frill. Though it wasn't just the tyrannosaurs that they had to be concerned about, it was also other ceratopsians, or possibly even like the tail club of an ankylosaur, like the Euoplocephalus, would probably be a threat as well. Question is, could the frill help them with an ankylosaurus club? That's a lot of force.
Yeah. Any questions that want to be asked, just ask them. Very few people have the ability to do what he does.
Third, while the oh wait a second. Oh yeah. Third, while the researchers may never know exactly what happened, it's possible the attack occurred when the Pteranodon was most vulnerable, sprawled atop the water. While Pteranodon could land and take off on water, they were ungainly at sea and took considerable time to take off. Okay, so maybe I just have to review over it, and Pteranodon might be one of the other diving species of coastal pterosaurs. Understanding the ecology of these animals is important to understanding life on Earth through time. Are there sharks today that hunt seabirds? Yes, there are. Is that unique? Or have big sharks been hunting flying creatures for millions of years? Answer is yes, they have.
Wait a minute. Don't we know that great whites will grab birds?
Yeah, a wide variety of sharks will. We know now sharks were hunting flying animals as long as 80 million years ago. They were probably doing it back in the Triassic if smaller species of pterosaurs were um, feeding in coastal areas. They were hunting fish. Many cases, they were probably going after different types of insects. But even further back, if you're referring to flying animals, there might have been instances where maybe there were certain sharks that were able to tolerate fresh water, like likely even the Mesozoic. But I'm referring to like the Carboniferous, or at least the Permian areas, Permian era between 300 and 352 million years ago. Could have had different species of dragonflies, and they would just or snatch one from the air.
I tried that once, but it got stuck in my teeth, and I just
Well, that's a very slow dragonfly, and that's concerning. I bet that didn't taste very good.
it was crunchy.
I bet a lot of people in Southeast Asia would agree. Uh, or no, or was it South America? I think it's both. Okay, let's head to another part of the now Cenozoic. I'm guessing. So from Sci News, world's oldest flying squirrel fossil discovered. An international team of paleontologists has found the world's oldest flying squirrel fossil, an 11.63 million year old specimen of an extinct species called Myopetarista neogravensis at the Abocador de Can Mata site in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. Oh, this looks like a little curious fellow. He's probably going after, I'm guessing, like different species of fungi or mushrooms, and as well as insects. He might be somewhat, I mean, that is being carnivorous, but he's also maybe going after smaller mammals. Mammals can walk, hop, swim, and fly. A few, like marsupial sugar gliders or colugos, can even glide. Flying squirrels are the only group of gliding mammals to have achieved a significant diversity, 52 species in 15 genera, and wide geographical distribution across Eurasia and North America. So, to drift from tree to tree, these small mammals pack their own parachute, a membrane draping between their lower limbs and the long cartilage rods that extend from their wrists. Tiny specialized wrist bones, which are unique to flying squirrels, help to support the cartilaginous extensions. Okay. I think there might have been like a certain species of modern flying squirrel that I wanted to bring up. Hmm. Gosh, it's not hitting me. It was like some or a couple of species from Asia. Actually, look up a brown white gliding squirrel. Hmm. So glaucomize. Hmm. Is this him? I don't think this might be from Asia.
Are they born with glaucoma?
Um, I don't think so. Yeah, it's some. I'm thinking of some brown white species of gliding squirrel from Asia. Maybe that's him. I don't know specifically who this is. Red and white giant flying squirrel. Yeah, I'm going to need to review my this lineage of rodents, but it's a very distinct species. It is interesting. He almost looks like a cat in this instance. Oh, well, maybe it is him. I think this creature is native to certain regions of China, maybe even Korea. Oh, yeah, that is him. Gosh, it's not hitting me his genus and species name. I didn't realize we had any in captivity. I thought they were, well, I was going to say extremely rare, but do have a wide variety of species in captivity that are extremely rare. Um, but yeah, I think it feeds on different species of vegetation, fungi, and possibly occasionally might go after different types of insects. Yeah, that's him. Gosh, who is this guy?
Oh,
I wonder if this is
asking
where.
me to pronounce this is it's Peturista alboriferus
Yeah,
castaneus. Jesus.
it might be the subspecies. So Petrus alboris castaneus. I wonder if this is where they got Hammy or the idea of Hammy the squirrel over and over the hedge.
That's not what I'm laughing at. What I'm laughing at is
Oh,
that
oh,
guy.
yeah. I mean, that might be a realistic picture. Oh, yeah, and gosh, is that another one? Are these all him? Well, could be. Just different colorations, maybe depending on the subspecies. That's certainly possible. Very likely.
Pro animators. It's very cute and looks like a red panda mix squirrel.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it is interesting. I don't think it lives too far from the red panda. It might even coexist with it and shares a similar type of pigmentation despite not being closely related to the red panda.
It looks like he's freaking out.
Yeah, look at those claws, though. I mean, for the species of squirrel. I mean, many squirrels, especially over in North America, even gliding squirrels, they tend to have not as wide of foreclaws. They're um, very well shaped on this species. It's also nice to see that they didn't declaw this individual. He looks a bit shocked, though. Why they give him like a yellow butternut squash? I mean, I guess it's fine. Unless it's like a piece of banana peel. And they might give him both. Probably a squash. Oh.
It's like, do I get to come home with you?
Yeah, it seems that way.
You have a lot of trees.
There's uh there's another character it's reminding me of, but it's from an animated movie. I can't think of the title. I think it's like a almost like a spin-off over the edge.
John Doe asks, I'm going to the museum tomorrow to check in. Is there anything you want me to ask them about?
At the moment I don't have anything. I mean, I likely do, but there's yeah, I guess those questions are just not hitting me at the moment. Hmm. Okay.
Do they have anything hidden that isn't out in the public?
Oh. Oh, jeez. That's probably a wide variety of species. Maybe if they got any T-Rex specifically, fossils behind storage that haven't been made public. I guess same thing for Triceratops. I mean, despite us finding like more than like 200 specimens of each of the species, it's always just nice to know like where any new specimens have gone. I mean, they could be over like the Black Hills Institute. Maybe, but less likely. I would think the Chicago Field Museum. I'm trying to think of somewhere else.
Do they have any new species they haven't reported on yet?
Oh yeah, I guess that's another thing. Like what other new species of dinosaurs, um, possibly even large prehistoric mammals have they discovered? Or I guess dinosaurs, marine reptiles, or large prehistoric mammals. They could stick in like organopsians too. Those are the proto mammals from the Permian.
And then John Doe says, he looks worried there.
I'm not sure if it's worried or curious, but his eyes are very yeah, I guess he is a bit concerned.
Wait, did I do this one? Wait, wrong one.
I always wondered why lagomorphs, so creatures like viscachas, rabbits, evolved much longer ears, even pikas, compared to rodents.
Looks like he's waiting for dinner.
Yeah, it does. Or he's yeah hoping for something. Yeah, maybe it is dinner.
John Doe said there's less than 10% of their collection is on display.
Yeah, it doesn't sound surprising. Um, but yeah, I'm wondering like if yeah there are any um new species that they haven't put out to the public. Specifically, like, referring to dinosaurs,
Is that what you
and
found when you were at the Chicago Field Museum and you went behind?
no, I don't recall seeing any new species. They just showed us, a specimen of a Cryolophosaurus they had recently uncovered from Antarctica. So that would be dating to around 190 million years ago. Um, but there were just so many shelves, and I think also several floors too. Um, I mean, there were other fossils around, but I don't recall seeing any other new species. And then it was also getting into a bit of a debate as to like whether or not other paleontologists would compare modern animal behavior with ancient dinosaur behavior, and they're saying, no, 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 it's just with birds. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you would have to look at different large species of mammals and how they cooperate today in order to compare it with larger species of dinosaurs. Like the birds would help to an extent with certain parts of even larger dinosaur behavior, but they might only help with like overall species behavior if we're talking about like smaller microraptorids, maybe certain types of dromaeosaurs or smaller Triassic neotheropods, even Jurassic like Compsognathus, but that would be it. Possibly even pterosaurs. Yeah, I gotta recheck this guy's home range. He surely believes he can glide.
I was gonna say, if that's a real picture, that's a spread.
Yeah.
Wait, are you there?
I think are we not dead? Oh no, no, no. We headed over to the squirrel. Okay. Okay. The origin of flying squirrels is a point of contention. While most genetic studies point towards the group splitting from tree squirrels about 23 million years ago. Oh, so this is at the very beginning of the Miocene epoch. The oldest remains, mostly cheek teeth, suggest the animals were already soaring through forests 36 million years ago. However, recent studies show that the dental features used to distinguish between gliding and non gliding squirrels may actually be shared by the two groups. Hmm. In 2002, Dr. Isaac Casanovas Vilar of the Universitat Autonomo de Barcelona and colleagues unearthed a peculiar skeleton. First, a tail and two thigh bones, or femurs, big enough that the paleontologist thought it could be the fossil of a small primate. Hmm. I guess this could happen with a wide variety of species further back into the Eocene epoch. A bit shocking back in the Miocene. That's interesting. Trying to think of other. Oh yeah, let's bring up a species. This isn't necessarily. No, it might be a rodent. There's different species, but just look up the jerboa. So the Jerboa. There's a number of species, but they tend to inhabit like the Sahara Desert, Western Asia, and the desert. They're bipedal. So they really only walk on two legs. Or I guess you could say hop. Not too capable of walking to a major extent. Yeah, somewhat. Very small forelimbs compared to its body size. It's almost like the I guess you could say a belly sores of mammals, at least when it comes to how small its arms are. Yeah.
You almost can't see them.
This is a longer eared jerboa. But these creatures are mostly nocturnal. They're very small, probably in some cases only weighing maybe around a pound or less than half a kilogram, and are feeding on different species of insects. They are also burrowers. Sometimes they even fend off different species of snakes.
So they're carnivorous guys.
Yeah. And despite their kangaroo like stance and having very long metatarsal bones, very similar to the kangaroos, they are not marsupials. These are still placentals, just like polar bears, moose, people, wolves, elephants. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Is
whoa.
that real?
Yeah, it's not a real picture. Yeah, this one probably is. It's not hitting me what specifics. I might be just some long-eared jerboa. Many of them inhabiting the Sahara Desert of northern Africa. They're very specialized for just inhabiting certain parts of the desert that have bits of vegetation here and there, and they'll seek out. Well, not just insects. They'll go after other arthropods like scorpions. Scorpions are more closely related to like Fleas, horseshoe crabs.
How do they go after scorpions without getting stung?
I think they're immune to the venom.
Huh.
Oh yeah, this is one of the other species.
I like his tail.
Yeah, very. It might help with maneuverability and possibly balance to an extent, so a bit like a cheetah.
But he just used it for a fan.
I'm not sure if it works in that way. The interesting thing is, why is it part black and part white? Maybe to like help as a distraction for other arthropods.
Camouflage?
Yeah, but it wouldn't really camouflage with the sort of beige sand color where many of these species inhabit. So in some cases, the different species might only weigh like a few ounces or a few milliliters. I think he's alive. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, who is this? Is it Jerboa?
Says it is.
Yeah, it could be. He's just
Long-eared jerboa digging.
yeah. He just has a very shrew-like appearance to him. His ears are great for dissipating heat, and that's probably the only way he is able to sweat is through his ears. This is also something that you see in different species of lagomorphs like rabbits. They can only sweat through their ears as well. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's a good snapshot. These are all good snapshots. I think that's realistic on the bottom left. He looks a little fat, which is a bit challenging in this type of environment. Also for how continuously they're having to move. But also moving at night definitely helps. I think jerboas have also been around since like the Pliocene epoch or over 3 million years ago. However, so due to the large size of the tail and thigh bones, we initially thought that the remains belonged to a primate. In fact, and much to the disappointment of paleoprimatologists, further excavation revealed that it was a large rodent skeleton with minuscule specialized wrist bones, identifying it as Myopterista neogravensis, combining molecular and paleontological data to carry out evolutionary analysis on of the fossil. The researchers demonstrated that flying squirrels evolved from tree squirrels as far back as 31 to 25 million years ago, and possibly even earlier. So that's around the Oligocene epoch, mid Oligocene. This is interesting. Hmm. In addition, their results showed that Myopterista neogravensis is closely related to an existing group of giant flying squirrels called Pteranodon. Yeah, it's I think consisting of I'd say a majority of different species of gliding squirrel today. I'm trying to think of another rodent lineage to bring up that's not often mentioned. Hmm, okay. Their skeletons are in fact so similar that the large species that currently inhabits the tropical and subtropical forests of Asia could be considered living fossils. The problem is that these ancient remains are mainly teeth, as the dental features used to distinguish between gliding and non gliding squirrels may actually be shared by the two groups. It is difficult to attribute the ancient teeth undoubtedly to a flying squirrel. In our study, we estimate that the split took place around 31-25 million years ago, earlier than previously thought, suggesting the oldest fossils may not belong to flying squirrels. Molecular and paleontological data are often at odds, but this fossil shows that they can be reconciled and combined to retrace history. Discovering even older fossils could help to retrace how flying squirrels diverged from the rest of their evolutionary tree. So this is indicating that the flying squirrels and the regular, I guess you could say, maybe ground and tree squirrels, wasn't too specific on that, have been around at least since the late Oligocene. He was mentioning 25 million years ago. That's at least 2 million years before the Miocene would appear. Okay, well, it's quite astounding to see. Should we head over to current time? Okay. Let's head forward or even further into the Cenozoic. From theguardian.com. Marsupials previously thought extinct for millennia discovered in New Guinea. The chances of finding one mammal species thought to be lost was almost zero, and finding two is unprecedented, biologist Tim Flannery says. So the pygmy long-fingered possum was last known to have lived in West Papua until about 6,000 years ago. Interesting. So this was back in the Mesolithic era or Mesolithic period. So around 5,000 years after the end of the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch. Certain ecosystems, though, in North America at this point were still different from today. Usually, like the Sahara Desert region, it's a bit more lush at this point. But places like North America, Europe had gone through drastic changes. South America, a little less so. Even sub Saharan Africa. Okay, let's see what else is going on. So, researchers led by the Australian scientist Tim Flannery have made a once in a lifetime discovery that two charismatic marsupial species had been thought extinct for 6,000 years are alive in rainforests in remote West Papua. The pair are rare examples of Lazarus taxa species that disappeared from fossil records in the distant past that are later found to have survived. One of these species is a striped possum with an extraordinarily elongated fourth digit, twice as long as the rest of its fingers. It's almost like the eye or bush baby of Papua New Guinea. And the bush baby or the eye is from Madagascar. That it uses to extract and feed on wood boring insect larvae, which is basically what the elongated finger on the eye is used for. Fossil records had previously indicated the species known as the pygmy long-fingered possum, Dactylonax camboyi, lived in Australia's central Queensland region about 300,000 years ago, but seemed to have vanished during the Ice Age. Wow. Okay, so it was inhabiting um, Queensland during the later part of the Ice Age. That's quite astounding. Before the recent discovery, it was last known to have lived in West Papua until about 6,000 years ago. Whoa, well, here's another, I think it's the same creature. Oh, yeah, and he has that specific curled tail. Oh, the ringtail glider. Wait, oh, that's him. Or it's another species. Yeah, look different. Him and him. Yeah, they don't look the same. Yeah, completely different stripe and color accumulation. Even his face is wider. Different tail, I think. I think the other one is a tail correlation. The other is a ring-tailed glider, Tuus yamarensis, which is closely related to the Australian greater glider, but with unfurred ears and a strongly prehensile tail used for gripping. It was first described by the late Australian zoologist Ken Upland, who pieced together fossil fragments found in West Papua late last century. Flannery's research team found the species was still living in the rainforest and identified it as part of a newly described taxonomic group or genus of marsupials. Other species from the genus lived in eastern Australia, New Guinea, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Yeah, I think usually Papua New Guinea tends to be a little less known for its marsupials, but usually it's animals in general. You do have a wide range of different species marsupials here that contain very closely related traces to Australian marsupials. Um, in many cases, they used to coexist with each other back in the Ice Age. Flannery is best known as a climate campaigner and the author of the international best-selling The Weather Makers, but he made his name in science as a mammologist and paleontologist working in New Guinea and Pacific Islands. He says the likelihood of finding one mammal species that had been thought gone for millennia was almost zero. Yeah, it's definitely been a bit more common in recent years. Oh, that really is in West Papua. I was guessing just, over here. I forget how far Papua Guinea extends west to Indonesia, even though I think half of it is owned by Indonesia. The chances of finding two, it's unprecedented and groundbreaking, really, to find two Lazarus taxa. The 70-year-old says the identification of a new genus in particular felt like a lifetime achievement, shared with all our many other co-authors. It is the first new genus of New Guinean marsupial described since 1937. Wow, really? It's been that long? I thought it would have been much more recent. We've been able to finalize two pieces of work that are incredibly important from biological and conservation perspective, documenting the existence of rare marsupials in an area under threat. It's sort of a crowning glory in my career as a biologist. Both species live in lowland mountain forests on the sparsely populated Bird's Head Peninsula, also known as the Vogelkop, in the northwest of the Indonesian controlled part of New Guinea. Oh.
They don't look like squirrels.
Yeah. So I guess it's the coast of New Guinea. Their existence was established through photographs taken by local and independent researchers, fossil fragments, and in the case of the long-fingered possum, a museum specimen that was collected in 1992, but initially misidentified and used for teaching. Anything else? So the long-fingered possum was photographed in 2022 by Carlos Bocos during a trip to the area by the organization mammalwatching.com. Sounds like a live streaming channel for other mammals. A ring-tailed glider was captured by Armin Muharmansai by the side of a river in a forest belonging to a palm oil company in 2015. Photographed by Aichlas Alzaikai from Orangutan Foundation, Indonesia. The discoveries are detailed in a special edition of a peer reviewed journal published on Friday by the Australian Museum, edited by Flannery and the museum's former chief scientist, Christopher Helgen, now running Bishop Museum in Hawaii. They are part a result of Flannery's repeated trips to the Vogelkop, where he works with indigenous elders, researchers from the University of Papua, the Global Wildlife Fund, and the Minderoo Foundation. Sounds like a foundation um, controlled by wallabies to protect forests from logging and leave them in the control of traditional owners. He says the research underscored the importance of preserving the area's unique environment. Oh, he's back. Yeah, very different sort of a look. Jeez, look at that finger. Wow. That's different. The it's
Wait,
possibly like the
so it has
third
4
finger.
fingers.
Yeah. Oh, okay, maybe it's the fourth finger. I need to double check.
Hmm, wait,
Yeah,
wait.
there's a thumb.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Interesting. It's just its big long one is covering its other one. Yeah, the big long one is covering that one.
Oh, yeah. Or that's just extended skin.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe extended membrane. I think it's being a little redundant. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Um keep going. Okay. Okay, let's head to another part of the world. Yeah, so it's great to see with these two little marsupials. So, from NPRnews.org, Minnesota's moose population has stabilized. A new effort seeks to grow their numbers. Oh, we've got, I'm guessing like a health checkup.
I thought that was
And
a kangaroo for a second.
that's a very large kangaroo. Even for the Ice Age, this would have been huge. Um, let's see what else is going on here. Obviously, radio collaring, yeah, health checkup, probably some more analysis on where it's been traveling. So, Seth Moore, director of natural resources for the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, places a research collar on a young moose and assesses its health in February. The work is part of a broader effort that seeks to gain insights into the challenges young moose face in surviving their first winter and becoming successful breeding adults. I think it's a female, though he might have just lost his antlers. There's a new effort afoot in northern Minnesota to better understand why the state's moose population has remained stubbornly flat since it declined sharply about 15 years ago. The Northern Moose Alliance also wants to better engage the public about scientists' efforts to recover the iconic animals' numbers in the North Woods. This winter, they placed GPS collars on 60 young moose around 9 months of age that will allow them to track the animals as they grow to full adulthood. Those in between years before juvenile moose become full grown adults represent a gap in research in the state. That's interesting. Actually, that's kind of a number. I mean, that's 60 moose having to do some health checkups and put some GPS collars on.
Pro Animator said, "Stabilized?"
Basically, you had it where in the early 2000s and possibly even like the early 2010s, and this wasn't just Minnesota, this was other states over in New England, Minnesota's in the Midwest. Even in the western states like Utah, there were certain declines in moose. I'm not sure if it was just due to brutal winters. It could have been maybe certain tick issues in different regions. Maybe probably not massive wolf predation. Wolf numbers were much lower. I'm not even sure if it had to do with hunting. Trying maybe a certain disease in the area, but yeah, there was a massive decline. And now, though, at least recently, the question is, was like in recent years for Minnesota, was there a massive decline? And now it's just springing back up again. That's my guess. I don't
It says
exactly.
it's not springing up.
Yeah.
It says
Well,
it's flat.
yeah, I guess what it means stabilized just hasn't moved. Whatever population it is, which I do not recall at the moment. So let's see. Yeah, and those years are critical. They often determine whether a young moose survives long enough to join the breeding population and ultimately help moose numbers start to grow again. And also, kind of comparing it to the early 2000s at this point is not not necessarily the best. Just looking at overall population, if you have, like a decent like after like a certain bad winter or 2, you have a few or a couple even good years afterwards, it tends to help skyrocket like the moose population. But we've seen this occur with elk in recent years, at least over in Colorado. They had massive like a bad winter, I think in 2023 and 2024. And then there were just milder winters and also, I guess, plentiful late springs, summers, and early falls. And the population skyrocketed in few different counties. So it might have occurred with the moose in different areas, but for some reason, this hasn't moved. Also, where specifically in northern Minnesota is this occurring? Is this like the Superior National Forest, which is like northeastern Minnesota, adjacent to Lake Superior? Is it like central northern Minnesota with like the Voyagers ecosystem?
Is that
Um,
where the Voyagers Wolf Project is?
yep. And then there's, well, I mean, even slightly further south, it's still technically northern Minnesota, and you have certain moose populations in the area. Elk are very rare in Minnesota, also because in recent years they have been reintroduced. So they often determine whether a young moose survives long enough to join the breeding population and ultimately help moose numbers start to grow again. This project is aimed at really looking at what's happening with those younger moose, said Michelle Cartenson, Wildlife Health Program Supervisor at the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Are there challenges to getting them to 1 year old? When do they really reproduce? And how many calves are they contributing to the population? Yeah, these are all quite mysterious in a lot of ways. Hey, oh, there's another moose. I think he was just tagged. Oh, yeah, he has a radio collar on him. I think I'm just thinking of him with the blindfold on. So, young moose that researchers placed a GPS collar on in northeastern Minnesota in February. The Northern Moose Alliance hopes to identify ways to help Minnesota's moose population recover. Sounds like a very powerful sort of moose controlled foundation or program. Kind of like with what we saw in what the Mindaroo University or something. Like I thought, sound like wallabies were controlling. By teasing out answers to those questions, scientists from state, tribal, academic, and nonprofit partners hope to gain clues that might allow wildlife and land managers to create better moose habitat in specific locations that could improve the odds of young moose surviving and becoming productive adults. Collaring moose. The project's first phase began this winter when researchers placed the tracking collars on young moose across the state's core moose range, stretching roughly from two harbors, I guess it's a specific town or county, to Eli, to Grand Portage at the tip of the Arrowhead region. These collars will allow researchers to closely monitor their movements. They're also equipped with mortality sensors that send notifications via satellite when a moose stops moving for 6 hours.
I put in there, "This cuts back on moose burgers," and Pro Animal went, "No!"
Um, like, yeah, I mean, we just add some bacon grease and we all want some moose burgers. That's interesting. Actually, it didn't hit me. Like how long do moose actually sleep for? But apparently 6 hours is a bit too long. Researchers will then investigate to determine the cause of death. The group partnered with a helicopter capture company to perform the work. When crews spotted a young moose from the air using thermal imaging, they hovered above and shot it with a tranquilizing dart to sedate it. They landed, attached the collar, and quickly collected biological samples and assessed their overall health, including how many parasites, especially winter ticks, they were infested with. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Pro
His fur
Animator
looks
said,
pretty.
"Evil." Hold on, I'll blow 'em up.
Yeah, the ticks can be a big issue. Oh yeah, that's a young moose. Yeah, looking at his head structure. I mean, his fur looks really good, especially for this time of year. He's healthy.
How many earrings do they need to give him?
Oh, yeah. Um, I actually wonder why they specifically do that. It's interesting. Well, he seems calm and well, he's tranquilized. So he's one of 60 young moose around 9 months of age that researchers placed GPS collars on in February in northeast Minnesota. So the work was conducted during intense periods of extreme cold, high winds, and poor visibility. We're flying in a helicopter with no doors, said Seth Moore, the director of natural resources for the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa.
That would be cold.
Ooh, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Wow, I guess I forgot they still do that. One of the partners in the project. So you have a wind chill that is absolutely brutally cold. Polar researchers are like, or penguin researchers, yeah. I guess we have something in common.
I think they're laughing.
Yeah. Or maybe muskox researchers too. Um, I guess then there are those certain snow leopard people too. So, but the work was successful. No moose died during the collaring effort, which is something that plagued the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment because usually there's a few casualties with any amount of even carnivores. This can happen too, like with wolves, and all of a sudden there's a couple that end up perishing.
Is that because they're drugging them?
Maybe, and like maybe it's too much, or yeah, it was a bad reaction. So when it placed research collars on adult moose and calves over a dozen years ago, part of a landmark study that attempted to pinpoint the reasons behind moose populations crash in northeast Minnesota from nearly 9,000 animals 20 years ago to about 4,000 today. Oh, okay, never mind. It's also bringing up the early 2000s. Wow, that is a huge decrease. I am wondering if there are any instances with like black bears and a handful maybe perished, like when they were making these types of radio collaring efforts, or in more western parts of the country, or over even in Canada or Alaska, and like collaring grizzly bears. So we're monitoring them daily for their survival, Carnson said. I'm going to knock on wood, but so far we haven't had a mortality. Researchers said the young moose they collared appeared healthier than anticipated, but they're entering the most challenging time of the year. Let me guess, late winter. Well, there's the crew.
That helicopter looks old. I wonder if it is.
I've seen that type, but they're usually like painted white, were used for tranquilizing elephants over in different parts of Africa. They've made it through the majority of winter, but they're still waiting for green up to bring better forage with more nutritional value. Yeah, they're feeding on like wood and twigs at this point. And maybe occasionally they're going and up to people's backyards and taking some maybe high protein. No, maybe that's summer. Occasionally they'll grab like a muffin or something. So winter ticks are taking their last big blood meal. It's also the time of year when wolves can be most dangerous to moose. When a crust layer develops on top of deep snow during freeze thaw cycles, moose will post hole right through because they're so heavy, but wolves can run on top.
Didn't they say some people leave, like, cookies out for them?
There might have been an instance where they were giving them like moose safe cookies, where like there isn't any sugar. I think it's just like something grounded up with maybe oats and different types of vegetation. Um, but I guess I would have to find and see who might have been feeding them those.
Or
Um,
was it Elka we were seeing that on?
I think it might have been moose. I don't remember what exactly. Let's see. So as the winter fades and spring appears, wolves get that advantage, and it tends to be at a time when moose can be weaker. That's why April tends to be a prime month for moose to die from predation. Well, yeah, depending on where you are, I mean, you can have it where April it's still covered in snow in different regions, and yeah, it's really hard for animals like moose, but it's great for wolves. And they're usually taking advantage of young moose that are coming out of winter in the poorest condition. Old moose or moose that have other pre existing health conditions like brainworm. Brainworm is not good for moose. It's also bad for reindeer or caribou, but white-tailed deer are, at least in the United States, though there are also invasive species invasive populations over in Europe, but they're completely immune to that parasite or really heavy tick loads. I don't think anybody's really immune to that. Earlier research has confirmed the many factors that contributed to northeast Minnesota's plummeting moose population. Winter ticks cause severe blood loss and energy depletion. Parasites, including liver flukes and brainworm, which is transmitted by white-tailed deer, further diminish moose health. Wolves and bears, which target moose calves, also threaten moose, especially when they're already weakened by disease or parasites. There's no smoking gun, but scientists widely agree that climate change.
Oh,
Come on, how dare you, like, just say, "Well, the ticks are just a part of the issue." No, they're a huge issue, and so are, like, harsh winters, as well as the other parasites. Okay, okay, heat stress from summer, that can happen with any population of moose. Mammal in general. Okay, so despite those challenges, moose numbers have stabilized at around 4,000 over the past decade. Stability is good. Reversing a decline and getting to stable is a great first step, said Morgan Swigan, wildlife biologist for the 1854 Treaty Authority, an intertribal natural resources agency based in Duluth. That's co leading the project along with the Department of Natural Resources, but we would like to see the population increase again. In order to do that, we need to have reproduction and survival happening, at least at a larger rate.
he looks happy.
Yeah, he looks perky. Almost like,
He looks like a stuffed animal.
oh, I think it's because he's urinating. He's releasing his bladder. Or it's a,
I just
or,
saw that.
or it's a female. Hmm. Yeah. Like, okay. Now I can just release. Okay. Oh, is that it? Mm, okay. I'll thanks for joining. We're gonna give everybody a minute to put in any comments into the chat.
Prehistoric Animator said, how did you learn so much about dinosaurs?
Well, I mean, it started when I was like 2, 3, but it was just a mixture of books, even like documentaries, and also just going online and looking into wide variety of different species. I'd say it became more challenging when wanting to get like an in-depth look into like their biology. But I think with the wide variety of species, no, what I'll say is that I think it was um earlier on, like, I wasn't too familiar on, like, the, different parts of the body and what they were, so I got confused when all of a sudden I was coming upon different, Latin and Greek names for the different bones, and I wasn't exactly sure what I'm looking at, or even when it comes to, like, different muscles of the body. So, um, that's why, like, there were certain points when, like, I slowed down a bit, but besides that, um, there I think really, like, it was just looking into depth of, the different species, and, I think it's also when people would ask, like, "What would you do on your free time?" And it's like, I'm not necessarily, it's kind of hard to view it as free time, like, that's just what I would do. Um, and, yeah, it would also occur with different prehistoric mammals or current animals, but, uh, yeah, I mean, it's been going on for around 20 years. So, Um, yeah, I can't think of anything else. Yeah, you also had it where I was much younger and I was teaching at the museum, like, basically the whole week. But, like, really, like, there were instances where there was this thing where it was free Thursday. Well, it was, you could come in, I think, at around, I think 2 p.m. until closing time, which was around 5. And I think in many instances, like, if you were a regular visitor, it wasn't really the best time to go there because so many people would crowd in. And but for me though, like, I saw it as an opportunity and I got to have it where many people would come over to the Paleo Hall and I would just be giving in-depth conversations or um just in-depth discussions about the different species of dinosaurs and proto mammals and mammals within the area. And it was interesting because you would think the 3 hours is actually a long time, and it really wasn't to me, in my opinion. I mean, just keep hydrated.
Okay, Pyromer said, "Awesome. I look forward to joining you guys for these live streams."
All right, well, thanks, Theropod. Okay, so thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And remember, nothing is better than all animals all the time.